Okay, it's 11:30, so Terry,
All
ooh,
right.
it's past
Well, it
11:30.
is.
Wrong clock.
I echo Carol. It's just so great to see all of our friends and family, our NAMI family, and I see support group leaders out in the audience today, and our teachers for our classes. I see all of you. If not your face, at least your name, and I know you're there. And that just really makes us feel really good to be, have this opportunity to connect with everybody. So a couple of just online etiquette, a couple things we've already said, but we'll say it again as people are joining. It looks like we have 50 people so far. So that is very cool. We're learning together. Glitches can happen with Zoom and other, online platforms. So have patience with us if it takes us a minute or we have a little glitch, and you can use the chat to tell us if you feel like there's an issue. If everybody will give us a thumbs up so that we sort of know that people are hearing me. Like right now, if I see a couple of thumbs up from your reaction button, that would be, or a real thumbs up, that would help. Yeah, I see a few. Great, thanks, Patty, and some others that are letting me know that you can hear. So again, some of you are not on mute now, and I would like everybody but Carol and myself to be on mute right now. So if you can do that, that would help. Again, use the chat box. And then we're asking, as Carol and I both have mentioned, that everybody please enter your zip code into the chat box, because that helps us to report out to our funders, and particularly Bexar County funding that we enjoy year after year. So help us with that. So don't forget your zip code. And I think we've covered all of our get started online etiquette points. So again, welcome. Many of you are repeat attendees, and that's awesome. So we do have our general meeting second Tuesdays of every month, like we are doing today. And we're really excited to have the speaker that you're going to hear from in just a few minutes, and to really focus in on post-traumatic stress disorder, so PTSD, and particularly the kind of stress and challenges, that we have right now with COVID-19. Carol and I were talking about how we love learning, and I know you all do too. And that's the positive side of, kind of what we're going through. It keeps us young, it keeps us fresh, it keeps us going. And at the same time, wow, a lot of work, a lot of challenges, a lot of frustrations. Almost everybody has, I wouldn't say almost everybody, I would say everybody has experienced some level of loss and stress and just intense feelings during this time. And so we're really grateful to have our guest speaker. Her name is Sharon Gregory, and she is a master's level mental health counselor with Family Violence Prevention Services. She's been doing her work for a number of years. She uses, she's much an expert in trauma-informed approaches, and she uses those approaches in her daily work with clients. And prior to coming to Family Violence Prevention, Sharon had an amazing service in the United States Air Force. 25 years of service. That's incredible. And uniquely with her service, she has been a part of the sexual assault response efforts in the Air Force, and did amazing work with thousands of military personnel and impacted their lives, particularly those who were victims of sexual assault. So she just has amazing expertise. And so again, Sharon, we thank you for your service, and we thank you for this service that you're doing now. And I know she loves doing DIY stuff, so I think I'm gonna get with Sharon at some point, because I love doing DIY stuff at my house. And So maybe we'll connect on that too. So I think, Carol, unless you feel that there's anything else we need to do, I think that we can get Sharon on the screen, and she's going to share her slides, or Carol will, one of the two, and we will get going. So Sharon, welcome to NAMI San Antonio.
Okay, thank you so much, Terry. I really appreciate the warm introduction. And as you might be able to see, DIY is very alive and well with me. You can see in the corner over here that I'm in the process of making a bed. So DIY is what I do every spare moment that I get, and that's part of my self-care as well as part of my therapy, if you will. So whenever you're ready, come on over. I'm going to share my slides now. Everyone, are you able to see the slides? Okay. At this point, I'm not able to see you on the screen, but everyone could see. I just wanted to get a thumbs up to make sure that you were able to see them just then. Okay.
I do not see them yet. We do not see them yet.
Okay. I think I have to do a couple of things here, and that is share my screen. I appreciate the preface on definitely. Are you able to see them now?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start here. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to spend a little time with you today. I'm talking about this subject of trauma and the implications for the pandemic that is global at this particular moment. The current world circumstances provides us both with a wealth of challenges and also tremendous opportunities to be creative and to solve problems. I'm encouraged that we're taking measures such as this meeting today to gather with our community to try and minimize some of the impact of this pandemic, and also to keep from worsening conditions for people who experience trauma, already have symptoms, or people who are living with PTSD. The data that I'm going to share with you is gathered from many sources. My presentation to you is based on my studies, some of which Terry mentioned, and also my interpretation of the data, as well as my experience working with clients who are in the throes of trauma, and also from my time in the military for working with people who are survivors of sexual assault and various types of trauma. And so today in the discussion, I'm hoping to provide an overview for people who might not be familiar with trauma, what that looks like, just some information about trauma, then some considerations for COVID-19. And after that, I'd like to just go into what does trauma really do? We hear this word trauma, but what's actually happening, the human systems that are impacted, and I will be as generic, but the goal here is to connect us with something that we might be able to do something about at the individual level. What's happening on the inside? And what does trauma look like on the outside for those of us that work with people? How does trauma manifest itself so that we're able to identify it in ourselves and also in others, and to be able to move people and ourselves towards health? And what can I do about it? I'm going to introduce you. You may already be familiar with it, but it's a technique that I use when I start to work with trauma survivors about staying in your window of tolerance, self-care, which is critical for trauma, and then mindfulness as a part of helping to develop that self-care plan. And I'm aware that right now, many of you, like Terry said, 50 plus people are present here physically. And because of what's happening in the world and in your own life, I'm aware that you might be here physically and spiritually, mentally, emotionally be in a million other places. So at this moment, if you're able to, and if you're willing to, I would like to invite you into this present moment by practicing just a couple of seconds of mindfulness with me. If you are right where you are, I want to bring your attention to your breath. If you can listen to my voice and focus on the breath, the air leaving and coming into your body. If you feel comfortable, I want to invite you to close your eyes. If not, you can just stare off at something in the distance, but using this moment right now to breathe, to connect with your breath. If it's helpful for you, you can say to yourself, sometimes even out loud, inhale and exhale. As you do this, you might notice thoughts entering into your mind, and that's okay because we don't control the mind. The mind does what it's going to do, and that is to wonder. That is its job. If you'll notice those thoughts without judging them and thank them for coming and allow them to go just in the moment and go back to focusing on your breath. As I understand it, if you say quietly to yourself, inhale and exhale, it keeps your mind from wandering. You take a couple more breaths, and if and when you are ready, if you'll bring your awareness back to the meeting, whenever you're ready to do so. Thank you for going through that with me. I appreciate it. Just an experience of mindfulness, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on in the presentation. The next thing is to move right into connecting us with some of the concerns. I imagine if you look at the screen, a number of things might pop out at you that you are currently experiencing, or that you know someone who might be experiencing some of these circumstances surrounding this pandemic. And while this is word salad, and it may not individually appear like a lot, these are the sources, the current sources of excessive worry and stress, and that is the basis for the onset of trauma. Okay, we have a magnificent capacity to tolerate stress as humans. We have systems and networks in our bodies that allow us to address things as they happen. Our body is designed to respond and to alert us when we need to do something about things, okay? And it activates sort of the worry center, which is a normal response to doing things in life. For example, if a building is burning, your body will notify you. It is not our conscious awareness. Your body will notify you to get out of the building. If you have a test that you are going to take tomorrow, your body will notify you with a bit of chemical release that says, hey, you might want to study for the test, okay? So it is normal, the biological response to stress. And what does that look like when stress becomes too much, when stress overwhelms my capacity? Trauma, the onset of trauma happens when I meet up against circumstances that exceed my current ability to cope with them. I don't know how to cope with this. I don't have answers. This is the onset of trauma, and it is biological, it's physical, it's emotional, it's psychological, and it is primarily physiological. And that is the chemicals running through our body, and we'll go into that. Trauma is quite prevalent in our society. Depending on the source that you look into, anywhere from 50% of more people in the US, and I would offer worldwide, and higher in some places, will experience some form of trauma in their lifetime. In America, that would be 172 million people at any given time and higher. Everyone who experiences trauma does not develop post-traumatic stress disorder. About 4% of people will go on to develop post-traumatic stress disorder. Resilience is incredible in the face of trauma, because these statistics indicate that most people over time will readjust and reset themselves from the trauma. And there are people who will go on to manifest symptoms that lead to a diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder. These are some of the common causes of trauma: war, accidents, crimes, types of abuse, death of significant others, just witnessing death, fear, either real fear, threat, or perceived. The fear that something might happen to me can start the onset of trauma. And I imagine that pandemics are going to be added to this list, because we are seeing some people that are experiencing symptoms of trauma as a result of COVID-19 and things that we have never had to endure before. Therefore, we don't really know how to deal with it, and that is the onset. It overwhelms. It's excessive worry and stress. Symptoms of trauma. The primary symptom that's manifested is emotional dysregulation, unhealthy behaviors, chronic pain. These are some of the symptoms that we see. And while trauma manifests itself in emotional dysregulation and psychological ways, the basis of trauma is rooted in the physiology, the chemicals in our body, the systems in our body. Okay, and what I wanted to do here, a little bit of science, if you will, if you're able to tolerate science, is to kind of move into what's happening in my body with this thing called trauma. And what we see, that trauma takes place right below our conscious awareness. It is the autonomic nervous system, as you will see here, that regulates. And the name suggests that this is an automatic thing. I don't control it. The autonomic nervous system is responsible for blinking my eyes, for my heart rate, for breathing, for other body functions. Without that system, I would have to tell my eyes to blink. How many times? 50, 60 times in a minute? And I wouldn't be able to get anything else done. My eyes would dry out. So these systems are set up automatically. Also, this system is responsible for the fight or flight or freeze that activates trauma. It happens automatically. We are wired, if you will, this is a little bit philosophical, but we are wired with the universe below the conscious level. I might be looking at this screen, but there's parts of me that are connected to what's happening around me right now and can alert me if danger comes at me and helps me to get ready to be able to prepare for it. I call it the body's alarm, or the body's stress alarm, the body danger alarm. When I work with clients, sometimes I liken it to the analogy of the smoke detector. It's there and it's going to go off if there's smoke and activate through chemicals. What happens when I am alerted to fight, flight, or freeze is that the rational thinking part of my brain shuts down. It goes offline. That is the prefrontal cortex here, where I make good decisions for my life, shut down, because in that moment, I don't need to be smart. I need to survive and live. So that part of my brain goes offline and I get ready to survive the attack by fighting it off, by running from it, by laying down and playing dead. And these are very normal responses to abnormal things that we are faced with in life. And right now we're seeing that COVID-19 is bringing about some of the activation of the fight or flight or freeze, the excessive worry. What do I do? What's going to happen? Am I going to get this virus? Am I losing people? Am I seeing people? We watched on television what happened in New York. How is this going to ultimately impact me? Am I going to lose my job? Can I care for my family? How do I get to my medical appointment? And I'm going on about this because right now you can probably feel, just me speaking about it, some of the angst, some of the anxiety sort of creeping up in you as we speak about this. And what happens during trauma, as I mentioned, there's sort of this separation in the human systems. The brain goes offline, their survival system kicks in and takes over. And for this reason, trauma survivors don't often have clear, succinct memories of things that have happened, of what their experience was. What we normally see in trauma survivors are symptoms, such as you see here: depression, numbness. This is too much. I'm going to shut down, freeze, and not feel anything. Feeling emotionally overwhelmed, a sense of loss. Who am I? What's going on? Self-destructive behaviors, nightmares, hypervigilance, being keyed up, if you will, anxious about things, whether it's real or perceived. These are some of the things that we see. Left unacknowledged, attempting to suppress it, forget about it, it's no big deal, is dangerous in the long run. Okay, left untreated, and repeated occurrences such as abuse and things of that nature really have a detrimental effect to our way of life, our health as a whole, our creativity, which is what I use to solve my problems in life, comes out of creativity. And ultimately, living the life that you want to live is impacted by this excessive worry and this trauma effect. There are a number of treatment protocols for trauma. Types of therapy, medication, support groups. Yoga is incredible, and the evidence is really increasing to show that yoga is incredible for helping these body systems that are separated during trauma to reintegrate and reconnect and sort of make the whole person again. And mindfulness helps me to tap into what's happening in my body so that I can speak to it and decide to do something about it, and we'll move into some of that. Self-care is critical for trauma survivors. One of the interventions that I use with trauma survivors and people who are experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder is the window of tolerance. And this is sort of a busy slide here, but if you bear with me, I'll kind of walk you through it and show you what's happening here in the window of tolerance, okay? If you look at this slide and you see the yellow area, this is when I am emotionally regulated as a person, okay? I am cool, I am calm, I am collected. You've heard people say that before. Another piece to that is I am connected. That is a critical piece. That means that my brain is functioning optimally and my heart and the systems in my body are functioning optimally. They are working together for the greater good of me. I can make good decisions. I can solve problems and make things work out in my life in this yellow area. Okay. What happens in trauma survivors, because the trauma is fragmented, there are constant triggers, things that trigger me. I might be triggered by smells, and I may not have any conscious memory of why do I become upset or shut down when I smell a certain cologne, or when I see a certain color, or when I go to a certain place. I may not consciously be aware of what's causing that. These are triggers, because when I am triggered, I leave the window of tolerance. And I will either hyper arouse, become anxious, upset, overwhelmed, feel aggressive, rage can ensue. And one of the things that I offer to people is the greatest form of hyper arousal, if you will, results in when people are injured and murder, things of that nature, is out of hyper arousal effect, the ultimate part. The other way that people go out of the window is to hypo arouse, down in the blue on the slide. This is when people freeze, shut down, disconnect, go on autopilot, check out of their bodies, disassociate. Okay, the ultimate form of hypoarousal is self-injury and suicidal attempts. These are the extreme forms of going out of the window of tolerance. Okay, and this is about a cycle of, if you will, the body alarm continuing to sound, continuing to go off for real threats and things that are not threats. And it's overwhelming to the body, and it is overwhelming to the individual who is living with this. How do I catch up? I am constantly being triggered by things. What can I do about this? How do I impact this? And there is a substantial amount of evidence that I can engage in things to help me to reset that alarm so that it doesn't continue to go off and I hyper arouse or hypo arouse. And that's what I would like to move in today. How do I get back into the window? Because it is normal to go out of the window of tolerance in the face of threat. That's what our body is designed to do. When something happens that causes danger to me, then my body will alert me and I want to go out of the window of tolerance. I want to fight away the prey. I want to run away from it, or I want to shut down and play dead so that I can survive. These are normal responses that we experience. And when that's done, how do I get back into the window of tolerance? Here, I'd like to move into a bit of self-care. What does that look like? trauma survivors, it is critical to take care of yourself. What does that look like? First and foremost, trauma survivors have an incredible need for safety, to establish that you are safe. Because when you are triggered and you go out the window, that says danger. And being safe is the foundation for recovering from trauma and going back into the window of tolerance. Okay. Practicing safety, establishing your safety. When you go out of the window, for example, when I go out of the window of tolerance, something has happened and I might feel angry or frustrated. Okay, let me check my surroundings. Am I okay? And start to use self-talk. Okay, I'm okay. I was triggered by this thing, but I'm safe and I'm okay. And we'll talk about ways to move through that process, if you will. Establishing safety, bringing your awareness to yourself, naming the emotions is a critical part of it. And then the self-talk that I use. Right here, you can find basic feelings chart, if you will. I'm a therapist, so of course I talk about feelings. You can find on Pinterest just all types of feeling charts, but getting to the point where I can name what I'm feeling. Do I feel angry? Do I feel jealous? Do I feel optimistic? I feel happy. I feel violated. I feel inferior. Whatever that feeling is, giving it a name. All feelings are valid, okay? They are not the end all, but feelings are valid. They carry information. They tell us things. That is the purpose of feelings. And the way that I'm able to get to the message that feeling is bringing me is by discharging the energy. I have to discharge that angry energy that I feel when I'm triggered. And I have to use positive ways to discharge that energy. What are some things that I do? I breathe. I practice mindfulness. I do yoga. I go for a walk. I go for a run. I build some furniture, go in the garage and cut up some wood to discharge that. And that helps me to come back into the window of tolerance. From there, I can get the message that the emotion is bringing me, and then I can solve whatever problem has been presented to me through that emotion, if that makes sense for you. Okay. Taking care of myself is the next step. Developing a plan to take care of myself. What does that look like? If you don't have any idea what it means, what do you like to do? Start experimenting with things, positive ways of coping. And this is 50 ways to take a break here. Create your own list of what do I like to do. I keep my list, my self-care list on my smartphone because it's smarter than me. So I have a list on my phone that I can go to when I need to take a break, when I need to engage in self-care. And that list says, call a friend, go see your therapist, take a walk, build something, read something positive, just a long list of things that you can develop to take care of yourself. And then you can also further break that down into different areas. Such as the physical, emotional, social, spiritual, personal, space, financial, work. How do I take care of myself in all these different domains of my life? And you can further subdivide your list of self-care things into different areas of your life. Okay? The more you engage in self-care activities, caring for yourself, the more you send a message to yourself at the cellular level, at the chemical level that says, I'm okay. And it calms that part of us which is activated by stress, and I'm able to solve whatever that problem is in the first place that has me stressed and worried. That's the ultimate goal of this. How do I calm myself at this level? What are some practices that I can use? I want to reintroduce mindfulness that we tried at the very beginning of the presentation today. I can become aware of myself through mindfulness. Mindfulness is how you're able to hear yourself. You're able to hear what you need and work towards giving it to yourself. Mindfulness helps us to become aware of ourselves by intentionally paying attention to myself. And I know that's a mouthful, and we often think, yes, I know myself. I'm with myself all day, every day. You know, I'm in tune with me. I know what I need. I do love myself. Really? Spend a little time in silence and see what comes up for you in regards to that. Mindfulness can bring you into the present moment. Mindfulness is about noticing what are you thinking right now in this moment? What are you feeling right now in this moment? Or better yet, what are you doing right now in this moment? Noticing those things without judgment. Because as sure as you judge it, if I judge myself and say, oh, I'm so stupid for doing that, then that shuts down my ability to heal when judgment comes in. So noticing it without judging it. And self-awareness is using mindfulness to connect with myself and my own experiences. Mindfulness can bring me out of the past feeling depression, focusing on things that have happened in the past, especially the trauma. It can also pull me back from futurizing, worrying about the future and a year from now and feeling anxious. Mindfulness brings me right here, right now. And if I'm safe, safety is first, then I'm able to grow and heal and reconnect from there. Mindfulness helps us to rewire, reconnect, and reintegrate my feelings, my thinking, and my doing, and all of those things are connected. Healing is possible. Coping is possible through some of the ways that we talked about today. And that is pretty much what I had to present to you today. And thank you for allowing me to share all of this information with you.
Thank you,
My good.
Sharon.
Thank you so very much, Sharon. That was just powerful. I'm sure that everyone on the call today will agree with me. Now, this may seem real weird, but Sharon, I'm going to ask you if you could pay a little attention to the lighting in your room. I've had a couple people in the chat room say, we can't see her. And so before we let you go today, we want everyone to see that beautiful face that made this awesome presentation today.
That might have been intentional. So
I know how that feels, Sharon.
Yeah. And at this point, what we're going to do is open the session up for questions and answers that you might have in the audience. And so if you'd like to ask Sharon, anything about her presentation? If you would, unmute yourself, and everyone else, please remain muted. Then we'll take it from there.
You all can also chat your question. If you don't want to say your question out loud, I just reminded everybody that you can use the chat to ask a question. And I'll make a comment while I have my microphone on, just to share, you know, how all of us are feeling and reacting in ways that we, you know, maybe don't typically react. Last week, I lost a document that I was typing, and it wasn't even anything really complicated. It wasn't even anything particularly that would take me a long, long time, you know, to redo. But I lost the document. I don't know what happened to it. I'm learning different kinds of technology. We have cloud-based storage, and we have real storage on our, you know, on our device, whatever device it is, and all those things. And somewhere along the line, I'm sure, you know, I just didn't save it properly, and I lost that document. I also lost my emotional, you know, regulation at that point. You know, I was just so upset about losing this document. That it wasn't, you know, it wasn't anything all that important, but it was something I was trying to complete. So I know I feel, you know, some more intense, you know, emotions. And I guess for Sharon, you know, sometimes we gotta just let those emotions out. And I did. I most definitely did when this happened a few days ago. So can you maybe talk just a little bit about, you know, that healing process of maybe going through some emotion and actually, you know, venting those emotions and kind of then reaching maybe that other mindfulness state?
Yeah, absolutely. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Like I was saying, emotions give us information. And because I'm out of the window of tolerance, because of the charge that's behind that emotion, I'm not able to think and solve the problem, like you said, Terry, of recreating that document. I'm caught up in the emotions and where emotions take me. And emotions are powerful forms of energy and can take us to some frightening places, and holding that. And I share, you know, with people that it is really detrimental to my health to hold in anger or terror or fear. To hold that in, it goes into my body at the cellular level. So it's important to get rid of that. It is okay to be angry. It is not okay to act on anger. And so what do I do? Like you said, you processed it, you screamed, you know, you do whatever you need to do and consider the consequences of what I'm going to do to process that anger. If I'm going to do things that are going to, you know, get me in trouble, then that's not the best way for me to process that anger. But for me, will I go outside and scream? Will I get my journal and write some really graphic notes in it? I'll be honest with you, okay? Because that's how anger manifests itself. I will write some things that I'm thinking in that journal, and I'm like, I'm going to tear these up because I don't want anybody to ever read this about me, you know, and what I'm thinking. So it's normal. And that's the charge of anger, disgust, and frustration. And so what are ways that I can process it? If I shut down, if my biological tendency is to freeze when I'm faced with frustration, then how can I wake myself up? I can breathe. When you breathe, when you take a deep breath, you send a message to your cellular level, that autonomic nervous system that says, things are okay, stop it. Turn the alarm off. And you start to calm down or to wake up, depending on your arousal state. And so processing it and naming it. Some of the challenges come in when we feel a certain way and we don't want to name it. Maybe society has told us that feeling is weakness. Don't feel stuff. You know, that's not normal. Just go on. Hey, suck it up. No, because sucking it up is dangerous. I feel this way, so I need to acknowledge myself. You know, I feel so upset right now. And we know anger is a cover emotion. Really getting below anger, I feel disrespected. I feel uncared for. I feel violated. I feel uncertain because of this COVID. What's going to happen? I don't know. I'm scared. Affirming it is a form of self-care. I hope that answers your questions.
Yeah, and we have a couple more. Sharon, I'd like to call to your attention from Laura Glick. The question is, what do you do with your clients who are resistant to the idea of mindfulness? I find it hard trying to get people to, number one, learn their triggers, and number two, actually practicing mindfulness techniques or to employ the chosen coping strategies or coping skills.
Yes, it's a process. And because I am a trauma therapist and I'm also client-centered, I don't make my clients do things. I don't force them. I sit with them wherever they are because there's something getting in the way of them being able to practice mindfulness. When you practice mindfulness, things might surface that you don't want to surface. My trauma, the trauma of what happened to me back then, I may not want to deal with that. So if you come to me and say, practice mindfulness, I'm going to walk away from you because you're asking me in some ways to almost re-injure myself. And so one of the things that I do is to first work with clients on taking care of themselves. What do you do to take care of yourself? Do you like to listen to music, color, crochet, do sewing? So we spend time building up a self-care regime and practice it. And sometimes therapy is about, okay, what are you doing to take care of yourself? What things are you doing? Then when that is established, we start talking about sitting still with mindfulness because stuff is going to come up. And when stuff comes up, people have to be able to take care of themselves so they can deal with it. Otherwise, we'll never deal with it and we won't sit still long enough to tolerate it. I hope that helps.
Thank you so much, Sharon. And listen, guys, this is only the third virtual general meeting that we have hosted. So we are still learning a lot about the functionalities and everything. I need to get a message to Virginia Nicholas. I've not been able to talk to you via chat. You are sharing your screen. Virginia Nicholas. Unless there was something that you needed to speak to everyone about, please stop your share.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you are sharing your screen. Do you see to the left, everyone can see Zoom?
Can you see me? My picture's up there. Can you see me?
Yeah, your picture's there, but we don't need to see your screen.
Oh, okay. No, what I was wondering about is there's so much attention to women having violence. What about men whose wives physically attack them, and if they fight back, they get put into jail, and if they don't fight back, they get physically abused? Where does that person go?
We know that violence affects both men and women. It overwhelmingly affects women, but yes, men too are victims of domestic violence. And there are resources to help men. I mean, I work in a women that predominantly, in a shelter that predominantly supports women and children of domestic violence, but there are calls from men that we help and support. So domestic violence is not about love or lack of love. It is a progressive pattern of behaviors where one person perpetrates abuse of all types: physical, emotional, economical, spiritual, psychological abuse towards another person, and it can be detrimental. 99.9% of domestic violence survivors that I work with have experienced trauma. Domestic violence is trauma for both men and women.
Yes.
And so help is available.
Well, are you saying that they should call the battered women's shelter, or
Absolutely. Call the battered women and children if you need to flee from domestic violence, or if you need resources on what can I do, call and you'll be connected to resources.
Okay, I think your resources is what this family needs. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Virginia. And if you'll check your screen share for me and discontinue screen sharing, I'd appreciate it. And then another question, Sharon, coming from MW, I only see initials. Do you have additional information for sexual assault trauma? It sounded like that's your specialty.
Yes. When I was on active duty in the Air Force, my last 10 years or so, I was the sexual assault response coordinator. I was my installation subject matter expert on things pertaining to intimate partner violence is what sexual assault is. Oftentimes it's portrayed as something that happens to a person by the stranger in the alley, and that is not the case. 9.5 times out of 10, it is perpetrated by someone that we know, an intimate partner, someone that we have familiarity with, a co-worker, a boyfriend, a family member, whatever the case may be. And I had a tremendous amount of resources and connections with community partners, organizations such as NAMI, the local rape crisis center, the hospitals, and so forth. You can simply Google sexual assault resources and get a plethora of information. I'll be honest with you, when I was retiring from the Air Force, I thought I was going to go run for the rest of my life, be a runner, and I pretty much disband all of my resources. And my life calling is in doing this and counseling, so I'm rebuilding all of those things again. I hope that helps you in terms of looking for resources. There's the local rape crisis center here in San Antonio and information. So.
Okay, and Sharon, from someone else, how would you recommend that we encourage a mother who is grieving the loss of a son?
Yeah, that's a very important question. Grief is different for everyone. What does it look like? We learn about the stages of grief. They don't happen linearly. It's sort of all over the place for people. Part of grieving can be denial and the shutdown, and that is a part of grieving. It is not healthy to stay there forever. But if you have someone who appears that they are not grieving, the loss of a son, they perhaps are, just it looks different. And moving through that, encouraging people with safety to feel what you feel. Losing a son, I can imagine, is earth-shattering. And who wants to feel those feelings? And yet, at some point, it will be necessary in order to go on with life, feeling those feelings. I encourage finding someone to help with the grieving process, a grief counselor, someone that you can sit with and be able to go through that and talk about it. But it is on the person's time that they will grieve.
Okay. And if everyone will note, in the chat box, there are several suggestions being made for help for people that do need it. So take note of what's in the chat box. Let's see. Kathy Maloney is recommending a book, Shelter from the Storm, as an excellent book and workbook to walk through, whether for self-care or reaching out to a client with sexual abuse. So there is a suggestion there. Let's see. Someone has mentioned that Presbyterian, just a second, I saw that. Presbyterian Church is offering something. Just a minute. Oh, for those who've lost a loved one, in particular to COVID-19, University Presbyterian Church is hosting a weekly online, non-faith-based support group. And earlier, Valerie Sanderson posted for everyone, please begin to take a look at NAMI's Facebook page, because daily information, really good information, is being provided about various agencies and places that we can all go to for help. So please do that, and I know many people don't even have a Facebook account, but it's free, and just know that NAMI has a private, it's a Facebook page specifically for NAMI San Antonio. There's lots of wonderful information there for you.
May I back up a little bit, and I want to take note of something that Sherry posted to everyone. It's up a little bit, and it talks about triggers from songs. Tears come up, and certain situations will cause the freeze response in fear and apprehension. And she's able to shift it, move on. But is it important to find out why you are freezing, why you are being triggered? It's important to you. It sounds like it's important because you're bringing it up. It's something problematic. And if it is impacting your life, if it is affecting your life, then it sounds like it might be worthy to check into it. And I encourage safety. I don't encourage diving deep into the ocean without protective gear so that you're able to breathe and to come back up and float. Taking care of yourself and then gently going into perhaps, why am I triggered? What is this telling me? This sadness that comes up. What is it? What information is it giving me? Is it, we call it unfinished business in therapy. Is it something that happened that is still impacting me at the subconscious level, which is where most things happen, and bringing it into awareness so I can address it or simply let it go or move on past it.
Okay.
I hope that's useful for you, Sherry. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. And before we continue, we still have a few minutes. We're doing very well on time. Does anyone else have any questions that you'd like to ask aloud? Or I think I've visited everything in the chat box, but remember, please check there before you sign off, because people have been recommending quite a number of helps and aids that we can all go to. Let's see, from A. Perez, Sharon, what do you recommend for clients who struggle to self-care due to the overwhelming responsibilities and challenges such as parenting and work demands are more time-consuming now?
Yeah, I appreciate that question, A. Perez. And if you can remember the slide on self-care where there was a quote, and I live by quotes, and it said, "You can't pour from an empty cup." And so the idea of self-care is critical if I'm going to be able to do things for other people, to invest in other people, to pour into other people. It comes from me filling my cup, then my cup running over into other people. And how do I create space to do that? I start with a very difficult thing, and that is saying no to some things. To begin, I have to create time for myself, because time won't give me time. I think there's a song that says something about that. But I have to make time for myself by today saying, no, I'm not going to do that thing. No, I'm not going to do this with the kids. I'm going to take a minute and just breathe. Or I'm going to take an hour for myself, or 30 minutes alone. I think my daughter started her self-care regimen. When she gets home from work, she sits in the car for 15 minutes. Nobody's allowed to come out to the car. It's about what can you do to carve out time and space for yourself. If you don't, no one will. And it's a hard thing to do because of the demands and expectations, and it is necessary to survival. To have me time, my time, it's not selfish, it's survival.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay.
I see a message from Kathy that says, how exactly do we use the feelings wheel with a care receiver? And I'm not quite sure if I understand the question. If you can help me with that, Kathy.
Kathy, you'll need to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, if I'm working with someone and I want to get them to look at their feelings, like you had said before, how do I take that feeling? I know what the feelings wheel looks like, but what do I do with it when they look at it, they decide how many feelings they're feeling now, or how do you use that feelings wheel?
I simply affirm when people tell me how they feel. I say, okay, that's how you feel. When my clients come in and they say, I'm miserable, I'm sad, I'm suffering, whatever they say, I affirm it because it is how they feel. I can't take it away from them. I don't try. And I know there's a tendency to say, it'll be okay. And it may not be okay for that person. So it's not a response that I give. I simply affirm, you know, if someone says, I'm feeling sad today. Okay, you're feeling sad. Is there anything I can do? And leaving it at that, not taking away the sadness, because that's their work to do.
Just bringing it to their attention, exactly what they're feeling.
Absolutely. You're feeling sad today. Yeah. Do you want to talk about it? You know, do you want to go get help from somebody else? You know, can, you know, get you some resources, or what do you want to do? Sometimes it is okay to sit with sadness, not to take it away. Because if I'm grieving the loss of someone, sadness is appropriate. And I'm going to sit with it. And I might cry. And I might have a day where I don't brush my teeth or take a shower, you know, and that is appropriate for sadness and grief. Now, if I'm doing that 3 days later, a week later, then that's when it becomes an issue and I want to get up and move out of that. But for now, today, I'm sad. I'm going to stay here in bed and not brush my teeth or take a shower or comb my hair, and feeling it, because it means maybe I lost someone and I'm hurting for it, and giving myself that space to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We're going to move on. At this point,
I have a real quick question relating to Sharon, her last comment to that, the wheel exercise. This is CJ.
Yes, CJ.
In part of your exercise where it's, you know, I feel sad, do you, after time when you know, okay, do you say, well, where on the wheel do you want to be? Like, do you have them point like, I want to be content, I want to be happy, I want to be, do you kind of try to say, well, okay, this is where you are, it's Tuesday, but then where do we want to be by, like, do you walk them through something to kind of make them click of, this is where I want to get to, but I'm just not there yet?
Yeah, by the client's lead, if they let me know, if a client shares that they are sad, and I say, okay, I affirm that, and what do you want to do with it? You know, you're sad because this has happened. You lost your job, or you had a breakup, or you're here at the shelter. Yeah, that's sad for you. Yeah, but I don't want to be sad. Okay, how do you want to be? I want to be a happy person. Okay, what does happiness look like to you? Happiness looks like, and from there, building a plan with the client. And it might mean I got to go through sadness to get to happiness. I get to sweep sadness off to the side. I got to go
need to talk to somebody or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious because that wheel is fantastic, but it's like, yeah, how do you guide somebody when they're, you know, you don't want them to go extreme, but yes, everybody has these emotions, especially when it comes to grief. So thank you for answering that.
Absolutely.
I'd like to add something. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to remind people, because we learn in family to families, as family members, as caregivers, we tend to assume what our loved one is feeling. And something that we learned was to ask them how they're feeling. They need to own it. We can assume we see they're sad, but they really need to own what they're feeling, and we don't need to tell them, well, we see you're sad, or, you know, we don't try to label them, have them share and open up. As a parent, I found that very helpful, that they were opening up more because I let them share.
Thank you, Verna. And if it's not making an assumption, it might be humbly asking the question. I do that often in therapy. You appear sad. And my clients will no, I'm not sad. Where did you get that from, Sharon? Okay, then how do you feel? They'll correct me, and that is okay. Yeah, oh, you look sad. I do, I'm not sad. So asking the question, so yeah. I see Georgina, if I may really quickly, I don't want to bypass the question. How can you help a loved one who is having flashbacks? Flashbacks is one of the symptoms of trauma, and it is, I encourage, you know, getting the person, asking them if they're willing to speak with someone about that. Because part of what I do in helping trauma survivors with flashbacks is the self-talk that I spoke about in the presentation. When you experience a flashback, telling yourself, first establishing safety, and then telling yourself, that's a horrible thing that happened back then. It's not happening right now, okay? Because flashbacks will happen. And so it's the self-talk and what you say to yourself that can determine if you move through that or not. Clients who have nightmares, clients who relive experiences, establishing safety, taking care of yourself and your self-talk. Is that happening now? No, I'm safe right now, but that was an ugly thing that happened back then, and it's not happening now. It's affirmations. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Can everyone see the slide that's up now?
Actually, real quick, there's a question I just saw, Carol, that came across the chat that said, how do you recommend helping a loved one with less night terrors? That kind of rolls into the same, Sharon, as flashbacks?
Yeah.
Or that's something when the brain's not really sleeping, huh?
With night terrors? Mm-hmm. It's trauma appearing. Night terrors is trauma coming up. Trauma comes up for processing and reconciliation. Nightmares, intrusive thoughts, memories, flashbacks. These things come up for work, for us to do something with them, to acknowledge it. Oftentimes with trauma, it gets broken up and stored in different parts of the body. And it's part of the reintegration process, acknowledging that something horrible happened and how did it make me feel, you know. And we do this with the safety of someone such as a therapist, and with lots of self-care. It's reconciling things of the past. So the night terrors is the same thing. It's coming up for acknowledgement.
Thank you. LG Stylo 3, that was one of our questions. So I didn't want us to miss that before we moved on.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Okay. All right, then. Now, right now, everyone, we are having a couple of technical difficulties here. So as far as screen sharing, the rest of the slides that we had intended to. So I am going to ask you, Terry, if you will, share with, if everyone's done with Sharon, and thank you so much, Sharon. You've been phenomenal today. Absolutely helpful. We're so grateful to have had the pleasure of listening to you today. Terry, do you mind sharing with everyone just a few words about our upcoming events, absent the slides?
Yeah, and if also Verna, if you have the slides, you could try. Carol, I gave you back host, like full host capability, so I don't know why it's not allowing you to screen share. But really, essentially, what we wanted to say, first off, what I want to say is thank you to some special people, certainly to Sharon for being with us today. I want to acknowledge that we have some board members in our meeting today. Karen, Doug, it's a little hard for me to look maybe through the whole group because we still have like 64 people on the, that's great, Verna, 64 people on the Zoom right now. So that's fabulous. I also want to say thank you to Verna because she did a lot of work on this particular general meeting. Also Carol and CJ behind the scenes. I know Mel was in the meeting for a while, and we thank her for her input. And I also have to say one more time, thank you to Manuel, because he checked in with me yesterday. He's just a kind soul. And I said, I think we're doing okay. And I really appreciate that he has worked so diligently with all of us on learning Zoom and learning to be together effectively through virtual platforms. And I know he's been a part of many of you that are in the meeting that are our volunteer leaders that do our classes and support groups. I know you have experienced his kindness and his expertise as a trainer. So I think I've got all the thank yous. I know that we also wanted to let everybody know before we go to the connection slides that you should be seeing now. We want to let everybody know that our Pathways to Hope conference is going to be virtual, and it's August 21st and 22nd. And our Pathways to Hope website is up and running and has been refreshed, and you can go there to learn more about the conference and to learn about how to register, etc. And that's Pathways to Hope, all one word, pathwaystohope.net. So we will want you to be involved in that. This is our 5th annual conference. And, kudos to Doug and our Pathways to Hope steering committee and CJ working on the behind the scenes, all of us working to not let that go. We're not going to let that conference go. This is a time when we need all of us to come together and, work together to reduce stigma and to recognize how we can all work together, the faith community, providers, and everyone in our community to help folks that are struggling, and even more so during COVID-19. So we're very proud that is not canceled. It is a go. And please look at that website to register, and it is free. So that's one thing. And, pivot is the word of I think of 2020, right? Pivot. And so we are also pivoting to bring our walk back online. So we are going to have a virtual offering of our NAMI walks. That's going to be on October the 10th. And that date, October 10th, is really significant because October 10th is annually celebrated as World Mental Health Day. And so we are going to pivot our walk to that day. That's October 10th. It will be virtual again, but there may be some other activities. And as we see how kind of our world is working, we may have some other activities that could be small group or some face-to-face, but please watch as we begin to get those details out to everybody. We need your help this fall. We really do. We need your help. Yes, it's a fundraiser and we need your support in that way. But, more than anything else, we've got to take advantage of this time to bring our community together in every way we can. So Pathways to Hope, NAMI Walks, and then I think we're good to turn it over to Verna so that she can talk with you all about a connection that she and others have been working so hard to get up and running through Zoom. Verna?
Thank you, Terry. Good afternoon, everybody. That was a wonderful presentation, Sharon. Thank you very much. I just wanted to explain what NAMI Connection is. It's a recovery support group. NAMI Connection is a recovery support group program that offers respect, understanding, encouragement, and hope. NAMI Connection groups are free, confidential, held weekly for 90 minutes, designed to connect, encourage, and support participants using a structured support model group. It's a very safe place to share. People open up because they realize they're not the only one when people share. It's led by 2 trained facilitators living in recovery themselves. Talking about, mindfulness and that how we approach it is they start sharing what helps them, and we have the principles of support. So it's positively led to recognize what we might need. We don't say, hey, Susan, you need this. We say, in these principles of support, what do you think would help you in this situation? And then we gather in the group wisdom. This is what people are saying, their participants' perspective. NAMI Connection has made me realize that I can truly feel comfortable around my peers, and I really needed that feeling. Another one is, I believe NAMI Connection means hope. And the last one, NAMI Connection is the promise of what is and what can be in our lives. So the next one, I'm real excited. Whoops, why is it? Okay.
Click on, yeah.
Okay, so the next one, I'm very excited because we've had in-person groups, but since this COVID-19, we really felt the need not to stop these groups, and we were able to do virtual groups. So we are having over 50 plus, a group for them. We also have a general one, 18 years or older. We also recognize we needed one for essential workers, especially during these times. We're also excited because we're having one for veterans. I'm excited about all these. College and university students, they need that at this time, definitely. And then co-occurring disorders. So I'm very excited. I want you to contact us for virtual and in-person support groups. Contact me, Verna Lister, the community outreach. Here's my email, my phone number and extension. And I hope we have a lot of people join us. We're really excited. What's so neat about this is right before COVID, I mean, this happened for a reason, but right before COVID on March 14th and 15th, we just trained 6 new amazing facilitators. Somebody knew we were gonna need this, and it's just all fitting together, came together. So I'm very thankful for that. And thanks everybody for joining. Terry, do you have any more to say?
I'm
Can you-
typing in, yeah, I'm typing into the chat box the dates and things that I mentioned. So Pathways to Hope.net is in the chat. That's the Pathways website. So don't forget to go there and take a look at that. And then October 10 is, and I'm a terrible typist, is our walk.
Okay.
So I'll put those in the chat so that you guys can see those reminders about things coming up. We
Well,
are
just real quick, the October 10 NAMI walks, the website is out there. You can type
yeah.
NAMI walks, all one word, San Antonio, but the website's not updated to reflect it's a virtual walk yet.
Yeah,
Which-
thank you, CJ. We have
Yeah.
there is, like we were saying, when some of you guys were on, getting ready for the meeting, I was talking to Pete and Carmen, and, it's like, there's a lot of work that goes on, behind these virtual events. And, we are learning just like everybody else. We're learning how to do general meetings and classes and support groups, and we're going to learn how to do a virtual walk.
That's
And so, just hang in there with us, and, it's going to be great. It's going to be a great day on October 10th. The Pathways Conference, the speakers are, I mean, it's amazing. So we're going to keep it going. Yes, Carol, go ahead.
Terry, I just wanted to make mention of the fact that in addition to Verna's online connection support groups being provided, we have recently begun to provide online classes. For example, Family to Family is in progress right now. We have two awesome online leaders, Brad and Melanie Denson, or a married couple that's doing an outstanding job. That class is working very well. There's a second one, NAMI Peer-to-Peer is also in progress, and Michelle Mata and Takwa Ali Radford are the members and receiving rave comments about the successfulness of their class. NAMI Basics, we're planning to launch in the very near future, and by the end of this week, you'll be able to go to our website to see our schedule of classes coming up in the very near future.
And speaking
Okay,
of
I didn't want to fail
websites,
to mention that.
sorry, Carol. Speaking of
That's
websites, we are in the process, we are under construction for a brand new look and feel for our NAMI-SAT.org website. So yeah, there's a lot of change that we've, it's been a result of COVID, but at the same time, it's been a lot of positivity that in a bad situation, we're seeing how we're filling the needs for our community. And so we're excited to introduce that literally in probably the next few weeks, a brand new website. So
right. And the last
stay in
reminder,
touch.
I'm sorry, CJ.
No,
The
you're
last reminder I have is I had made a note in the chat box too. NAMI, for those of you that are not aware, NAMI does host monthly general meetings. And this is the third one that's been presented virtually. So if you'd like to make a note on your calendars going forward, second Tuesday every month from 11:30 to about 1 o'clock, we will be hosting our general meetings. And they'll continue to be virtual until we have the ability to meet in person again. That's all I have, unless Terry, you have more, or Verna, CJ?
Well, just that July 14th is our next general meeting. It will be virtual, and it will be focused on minority mental health. So we are in the process of working on a speaker panel. We're not really sure what it's going to look like, but we're working with a few great people, because we're 3 months on an incredible roll of fantastic speakers, so we can't lose the momentum. We just got to go up, 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 and up. So thank you again, Sharon. I'm sure she's dropped off, but
He's there.
thank you everybody that still hung on the calls with us.
She's still there. And CJ, she posted, there's a
Oh,
file.
there, she's got the slides.
You
And
can
we'll
download.
post the presentation likely on Facebook, everybody, because that's the fastest, easiest way. And Valerie, who's just this awesome, like incredible helper intern, sidekick, getting her doctorate. I mean, she's just a real rock star that manages our Instagram as well as Facebook. So if Facebook is too old school, we do have an Instagram account. And we keep all of that very up to date in the last few months. So just stay engaged with us so you can know, next steps of all these events that we've all just shared. And we look forward to seeing everybody again next month.
Yes, take care. Everybody
Thank
take care.
Thank
All
you.
right, be safe. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face.
Bye.
That's right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. CJ, Verna, Terry,
Yes, ma'am.
Kima, will you all stay on after everyone drops off?
Yes, we will.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye, Chris. Bye, Kathy.
What do I do?
Bye, Perez. Hey, Perez.
As Virginia Nichols scream shut down.
Hold on, CJ. We're going to debrief just a few minutes after everyone else.
No, I know. But I think she's gone, right? Her
Kathy,
screen.
if you guys will please leave the meeting. Thank you for being here. We have quite a few still here.
Yeah.
Hi, Kima. Okay, let's see.
There's 6 new messages. They're just thanks, goodbye.
Yeah,
No more
most of
questions.
them are. Charlotte, there's several people that have not dropped off yet.
What is that beeping, may I ask?
I am not sure. It sounds like someone's computer echoing.
Sounds like a smoke alarm.
Charlotte is still on more.
Thomas is
still
having
on.
a meeting. Probably we should hang up and go back on because a lot of people not aware that they got.
Yeah, there's a lot of people still on.
Okay, then we'll end it and I'll send you guys a new Zoom real quick.
Okay.
All right, adios.